listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for letting us be part of your day. We are sitting here on a Monday morning. It's a little cloudy, a little goofy, but that's okay because it's still a good day. My name is Jerry Mitchell. Sitting beside me is the recently cold Myra, because she'd been sitting here with ice on her shoulder this morning.
Hi, everyone.
And she had a shower. Her hair's still wet, so she's, if you hear the cold tremble in her voice when she reads this morning, you'll understand why. We certainly do thank you all for joining us today. It is a great honor when you do. Excuse me. We have too much fun around here sometimes. This morning it is kind of interesting. We're getting ready here in a couple of weeks for another celebration. They come around often. They really do. When you look at the biblical feasts, when you look at all the celebrations we have in the Bible, the reasons for them, there's a lot of them. And one of the things that's coming up, and it happens 50 days after the first Sabbath after Passover, is Shavuot. Now, Christian Church calls it Pentecost, and that's okay. We'll get into a little bit of that later. But what I want to look at today is something completely different that you may or may not be aware of, and that is what occurred. Why did the events take place the way they did? We learn a lot, and I know I use Exodus 19 and 20 often. And Myra said a while ago, I feel like I'm reading the same scripture over and over. I said, well, this story is actually told 4 or 5 different times throughout the rest of the books of Moses, and it's referred back to often throughout the prophets. And there's so much going on that you really can't read it and understand all of it unless you reread it and reread it and reread it. And then I don't know how many times we've read this, but it's a lot. And there's so much more going on, and that's what we're going to look at a little bit today. I like the lessons we learn from Exodus 19 because there is so much to learn there. And really, this is, we've come through an era, a time where everybody was getting prepped. They were being prepared, right? Well, it seems like they were getting ready for a big letdown, sort of. Because even though what's going on in the world today is kind of tumultuous and drastic, we do have this semblance of organization with it. We've got this, sometimes we're only hanging on by a thread, but we're still hanging on kind of a feel. What happened at Mount Sinai dramatically changed everything. And that's what we're going to look at just a little bit today, and the way it was received, the way it was experienced, I guess is a good way to say it. So as we look at Exodus 19 through verse 19, as Myra, go ahead and read that, and we'll go from there.
Exactly 3 months after the Israelites had left Egypt, they reached the desert of Sinai. They had left Rephidim and had come to the desert of Sinai. The Israelites camped in the desert in front of Mount Sinai. Then Moses went up on the mountain to God. The Lord called to him from the mountain. The Lord said, "Say this to the family of Jacob, and tell this to the people of Israel. Every one of you has seen what I did to the people of Egypt. You saw how I carried you out of Egypt. I did it as an eagle carries her young on her wings, and I brought you here to me. So now obey me and keep my agreement. Do this, and you will be my own possession, chosen from all nations. Even though the whole earth is mine, you will be my kingdom of priests. You will be a nation that belongs to me alone. You must tell the Israelites these words. So Moses went down and called the elders of the people together. He told them all the words the Lord had commanded him to say. And all the people answered together, "We will do everything he has said." Then Moses took their answer back to the Lord. And the Lord said to Moses, "I will come to you in a thick cloud. I will speak to you. The people will hear me talking to you. I will do this so the people will always trust you." Then Moses told the Lord what the people had said. The Lord said to Moses, "Go to the people and have them spend today and tomorrow preparing themselves. They must wash their clothes and be ready for the day after tomorrow. On that day, I, the Lord, will come down on Mount Sinai, and all the people will see me. But you must set a limit around the mountain. The people are not to cross it. Tell the people not to go up to the mountain. Tell them not to touch the foot of it. Anyone who touches the mountain must be put to death. He must be put to death with stones or shot with arrows. No one is allowed to touch him. Whether it is a person or an animal, he will not live. But the trumpet will be like a long blast. Only then many of the people go up on the mountain." So Moses went down from the mountain to the people. He made them prepare themselves for service to God, and all the people washed their clothes. Then Moses said to the people, "Be ready in 3 days. Do not have physical relations during this time." It was the morning of the 3rd day. There was thunder and lightning in a thick cloud on the mountain, and there was a very loud blast from the trumpet. All the people in the camp were frightened. Then Moses led the people out of the camp to meet God. They stood at the foot of the mountain. Mount Sinai was covered with smoke. This happened because the Lord came down on it in fire. The smoke rose from the mountain like smoke from a furnace, and the whole mountain shook wildly. The sound of the trumpet became louder. Then Moses spoke, and the voice of God answered him.
All right. Have you ever thrown a party in your home? Maybe you've rented a place to throw a party, and you go in and you clean it up, right? You get your house all cleaned up if you're doing it in your home, and then you have all these things ready. Everything's all set out just right. You've got where the people are going to congregate, and you've got the doors closed on the rooms where you don't really want people peeking in. And maybe that's where you stuffed all your extra stuff, right? Put everything away that maybe you didn't want them to see or something like that. And that's what's going on here. The people are cleaning up. Problem is, there's a lot of stuff that they put away that they should have cleaned up, and then they wouldn't have had to put it away. What's going on here is, God gives people 2 days to get ready, 2 days to prepare, because on the 3rd day, all of those preparations had to be finished. I know people who have spent weeks cleaning and recleaning their house, getting the windows just right, and for an event. We're getting ready for something here. We're going to a friend of ours' house, and she says, "I'm not cleaning until after y'all leave because we're at the beach, and I know there's going to be sand in here." Now, kudos to her, right? Because that's the way you do that. The place is always dirtier when people leave than when people get there. Here's the thing, the Almighty says, get ready. You have 2 days. And he shows up on the 3rd day because the Creator does not wait for us. Okay, he's got things on his agenda. He's got plans he's got to do. He's got things he wants to accomplish. He's not waiting for us to be ready. He says, here's your time. I'm on my way. And that's where we're at. he comes down on Mount Sinai, and there is a huge amount of fanfare. You know, when Pam went to Mount Sinai, she brought back a few rocks, and I happen to have in my possession a couple. They're sitting here in a shadow box on our mantle, actually. And one of them is from the top of Mount Sinai. One's from the cave of Elijah. One's from Moses' altar. And you know, there's something very special about those things. There really is. When the Almighty comes down onto Mount Sinai with all of this fanfare, okay, there's black, thick smoke. That residue remains on the top of Mount Sinai today. You know, almost 4,000 years later, not quite, but almost, we can look at the top of Mount Sinai and it's charred. And that char, when you test it, is has become part of that rock. It's a burnt rock is what it is. It's amazing how that happens. There's some things that are going on here. It says, the sound of the shofar was very loud. Now, some translations use the word exceedingly loud. If you go back and you look at the original, it says it was very mighty. I don't know how loud exceedingly loud is, but very mighty was really, really loud. And there's something that English-only readers don't get to enjoy about this passage, because there's just so much going on in this event. If you look at, you're going to read Exodus 20, verse 18, because this is something you need to grasp.
And all the people saw the thunderings, and the lightnings, and the noise of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed and stood afar off.
Okay, now that's the King James Version there. How do you see thunder?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Mm-mm.
Apparently nobody else does either. But that's not really what it said. Let's look at it a little bit more of an accurate translation. And all the people see the voice and the torch and the voice of the trumpet. Now, which voice did they see? They saw the voice of the Almighty. Okay? They see the voice, they see the trumpet, they see the voice, they see the torch, and they see the voice of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people see it, they trembled and stood a distance away. How is it that the people could see the voice and the torch? We have to think about this. Now, there's a lot of speculation about this. Every rabbi down through the ages since, and everyone after this generation that weren't there, is having a hard time explaining it. Some people say that it was so loud, okay, that they could see the sound waves. Well, that really doesn't make a lot of sense, does it? Because that's like looking at air. Some people say, no, they didn't actually see the sound waves, but what they saw was the effect of the breath of God as he spoke. Well, that's a little bit better, right? That's kind of what it's saying. But actually, they were so unprepared to see what they saw and to experience what they experienced. They were absolutely terrified. They had spent 2 days, cleaning their clothes and taking a bath and getting everything on the outside cleaned up. But what they forgot was to get the inside cleaned up. Why were they so terrified when they witnessed all of these things, when they saw what they saw? Well, they had spent a lot of time in Egypt, and they were used to experiencing these Egyptian gods, if you will, with a little g, who really had no power. They had no authority. They couldn't really speak because most of them weren't gods at all. They weren't really impressive, those gods with a little g that they were used to when they were in Egypt. But that's not what they got at Mount Sinai. What they observed, what they experienced was far more impressive. They experienced a creator that was so powerful when he spoke with all of the authority of the entire universe. He spoke and it affected each and every one of their human senses. They could hear him speak, they could see him speak, they could feel him speak, they could taste him speak. Remember, taste and see that the Lord is good. Where do you think that comes from? And they could even smell the smoke from the mountain. Each and every human sense was affected. Now, tradition has it that everyone heard the voice of God in their own language, but that's only tradition. The implication is when God spoke, it was not simply heard, but you felt it with each and every sensory perception that you could simply perceive. There's a complicated, convex way to say way to say that. Here's the thing. If you are so affected by what you heard, what you felt, what you saw, what you tasted, what you smelled, what you experienced, they were actually surrounded by the complete Spirit of the Almighty. There was no mistake about what he proclaimed. There was no mistake about what he said. There was no mistake about the things that he had given them. Now, this event that we're looking at is called Shavuot. It's the day that the Creator spoke the 10 words, as it is known as. He gave us the 10 commandments. He offered us those things. Now, of course, Moses goes up and he receives the rest of the original instructions, which is known as the Sinai covenant or the blood covenant. But it only includes the instructions through the end of chapter 23 of Exodus. None of the sacrifices that we think of today as part of the law or part of that covenant were actually part of the covenant. They were a result. They were implemented as a result of the violation of those things that we agreed to, and we very quickly begged Aaron for make us a god, Aaron, make us a god. He didn't want to do it, and finally he backed himself into a corner, and he says, look, I just threw all this gold in the oven, and this calf came out. Yeah. Doesn't work that way. The sacrifices were not part of the original covenant. And we need to remember that. We need to get over looking at these sacrifices as part of the original covenant that's going to be renewed. What's going to be renewed can be found in Exodus chapter 20 through the end of 23. And they're quite simple, quite easy. Nothing drastic going on there. Now, there's some other things that happen that we're reminded of that were already basically in place that they should have known about. Things like, women need that time separated away with a newborn child so that they can bond and heal. There's things that we should or shouldn't eat because it's good or not good for our physical bodies. There's other things that, are mentioned throughout these first 5 books of the Bible that help us live the way we're designed to live. But why are we hung up on the sacrifices? Well, that's a teaching for another time, isn't it? They just weren't part of the original blood covenant. Now, obviously, the people weren't prepared to hear or observe or feel all of these things. And I thought it was kind of amazing that from creation to this point was around 2,000 years. And around 2,000 years later, people were gathered at a celebration to commemorate this exact moment that we're talking about, this Shavuot. And it's amazing that there were over 100 people gathered on a different mountain. This time they were in Jerusalem on what's known as the Mountain of Learning, Mount Moriah, where the temple was built, where Abram offered Isaac. They were gathered together in an area known as Solomon's Porch, where again, all of these people heard a loud noise. Let's look at Acts chapter 2, verses 1 through 4. I'm not going to make Myra read all of the nations that were mentioned there.
Yay. When the day of Pentecost came, they were all together in one place. Suddenly a noise came from heaven. It sounded like a strong wind blowing. The noise filled the whole house where they were sitting. They saw something that looked like flames of fire. The flames were separated and stood over each person there. They were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and they began to speak in different languages. The Holy Spirit was giving them the power to speak these languages.
Okay. So what we see here, and the modern Christian church is going to call this Pentecost, right? There's not as much fanfare. It's not as impressive, not as overwhelming, but it's still quite impressive, even though it's extremely misunderstood by the modern Christian church. Amazing that this event occurred after a prophet had visited these people, and he said, you need to get back to doing the things Moses has taught you to do. Do what Moses writes, and you'll be okay. Don't worry about the stuff that men have added. That doesn't count. Just as Moses had brought them out of Egypt, away from the things that those Egyptian gods with a little g were trying to accomplish. He said, no, you're going to listen to the Almighty. The Almighty comes and gives them the instructions. Now a different prophet comes. Actually, they had two. They had John the Baptist and they had Yeshua. They come and he says, look, you've got to get away from all the man-made stuff, the gods with the little g, the people who think they're God but aren't. You just do what Moses said to do, you'll be all right. And now they get another visit. Isn't that amazing how that happens? About 2,000 years separating each event. Well, we're about 2,000 years away from when that happened, right? Now, I'm not convinced of anything here. I'm not going to try and put a timeline on anything. What I am going to say, actually, what I'm going to ask is, are you prepared for the next event? Don't know what it's going to look like. We have ideas. Everybody's got their own concept and their own idea of what's going to happen. Everybody has their own speculation as to what it should look like because it says this or it says that. Well, the other folks did too. The people at Mount Sinai just kind of expected, one of these gods to, walk out and say, here's the things you should do and here's the things you shouldn't do. And they got something far more impressive. Well, when Yeshua said, don't worry about what the Pharisees say, you worry about what Moses writes. Now, all of a sudden, at Pentecost, they get this rushing wind, and they see the fire, they hear and experience people speaking. That wasn't the only thing that was going on that day. We're not going to get into that, though. It's amazing to me that here we are 2,000 years later, and there's a lot of people around the world saying the same thing that I'm kind of saying. They're saying it a different way. But it's really, maybe we should get back to doing what Moses said to do. Maybe we should follow the Creator's instructions. Maybe we should learn to live the way we were designed to live. Maybe we ought to be following this really strange, obscure part of the Bible that nobody reads. It's right there in the beginning between Genesis and the end of Deuteronomy. maybe we should look at what these prophets are saying and learn from their experiences. Is it possible that we're getting ready for the next event? Whatever it's going to look like, whatever it might be. You know, when you put it in that context, it's extremely possible that we can be getting ready for the next event. Are you ready? Are you prepared? We're running out of time. We no longer have that luxury. Now, this next event won't require you to clean your house. Okay, you don't have to wash your clothes. You can be dirty that way. You need to be clean on the inside, though. It's going to be far more important to be clean on the inside for this next event. You don't have to be perfect. You know, you're not going to be perfect. But you do need to be going through the steps to be prepared. You do need to be getting ready. You're never going to be fully ready, but you need to be getting ready. And you need to be getting ready properly. Learning to live the way you're designed to live. It can certainly help you clean your spiritual life. And when it happens, it will have a positive effect on you, and it will have a positive effect on the people around you. And here's where the advertisement comes in. Of course, Give God 90 can help with that, right? If you go to givegod90.com, it's laid right out there. Small steps that you can do every day. Just little things that you build on each and every day that help you get ready for the next event. Those little small changes that you do. And of course, you know, if you really want to up the ante with that and really get ready, there's a couple of books out there, Tradition to Truth, One Man's Search for Honest Answers, and God's Universe, God's Rules, that can add to that, give you better understanding. They're out there. The resources are available for you to help you get your spiritual life ready for the next event. It always amazes me how much we overlook in Scripture. And when we go back to the original language, what we've missed. Just as it says in the original, the people see the voice of God. They were able to, with all of their senses, experience something that many of us think we'd like to experience. Right? I've heard a lot of people say, oh, if I could just live in those biblical times. You are living in those biblical times, okay? Nothing's changed. Nothing is new. Nothing has been added to or taken away. You're there. This is your biblical time to live. But are you ready? Is the inside of your personal house, you know, that physical thing that your soul lives in, not the physical thing your physical thing lives in, right? Are you ready? Are you prepared? Are you being prepared? Well, if you're listening to this, chances are you're getting ready, right? I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? Which is why I try to tell everybody, you know, you need to share this stuff out there. It needs to get out because you need to hear it, your family needs to hear it, your friends need to hear it, and even your enemies need to hear it too. Don't be afraid. Send it on. Pass it around. Because you need to be ready. Nobody actually knows what the next event's going to look like. We all think we do, right? We all have those little eyes that say, oh, when I read this passage, this image flashes in my mind. When I read that passage, this image flashes in my mind. Everybody likes to think that, oh, in a twinkling of an eye, we're all going to be called up and we're going to be safe and sound. Are you ready? Even for that, if that's the way it happens, are you ready? Are you sure you're ready? Are you living like you're ready? If you're living according to the way you're designed to live, it goes a long way towards helping that. If you're not living the way you're designed to live, I would suggest that you might visit Give God 90 and start, with the first 30 days and start changing some things. Because you need to be ready. I can guarantee you that even if you think you're ready, you're not ready. Right? That's not the way it works. You have to be actively and almost aggressively working at it every day. The bottom line is that we can look in the Bible and we see the experiences of the people and we realize that they didn't know what to expect. We might think we know what to expect, but we don't know what to expect. Moses gave them 2 days to get ready, right? Yeshua gave his disciples about 10 days to get ready. And they still weren't quite sure what was happening. The people around them really didn't know what was happening until it was explained to them. Today, here's your 2-minute warning. If you have 2 minutes, get ready. Because we don't know what it's going to look like. We certainly don't know when it's going to happen this time. But we do know it will. Are you prepared? I hope so. If you listen to this, chances are you are. But are the people around you? Are you living to give the people around you the opportunity to be prepared? I hope so. Because they need to get ready too. Hopefully, wherever you might be fellowshipping with people, wherever you may be going to church, that they're going to mention this celebration coming up at the third week of May. I think it's May 23rd, I think is the date. But you need to understand what it's all about. It's when the 10 Commandments were given to us. It's when the instructions were given to us. It's actually celebrating a whole lot of things, but that's basically it. Now, there's a lot of traditions that go with that, where people will stay up studying Bible all night, and they will eat sweet things because they were going to go to a land of milk and honey. So you eat dairy and sweets, milkshakes and cheese blintzes. So, and the cheese blintzes are probably my favorite. They're good. But however you do that, just be prepared. Get ready. It's one of those things that you can't put off. You either are looking and watching and waiting, or you've given up. Don't give up. Keep watching, keep waiting, anticipate. And I can guarantee you another thing is, even if you think you're ready, you're not going to be ready. But if you're trying, you'll be okay. Did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Thanks for joining us today, and be blessed.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate each and every one of you. We'll be back on Thursday night live. I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about yet, but it'll probably come from something we just talked about today. So I have an idea. I just haven't formulated it yet. Until next time, many, many blessings.